It's a great big world out there, and I really think that everybody's life is trying to find their place in that big world. Whether it's writing a song, building a car, playing your guitar, writing a book, drawing a picture, being a parent, being a husband or a wife. Everybody's journey involves that big picture. Where do I belong in that great big world out there? My life has been a roller coaster. Ups and downs, trials and errors. I'm always on that search for what defines me.
So the Uprising gimmick was really, I would say probably mostly the brainchild of Todd. We've discussed it. I had talks with him. I had talks with Mike. We really wanted to do something, that kind of went along with the gimmick that I was portraying at the time, the cynical priest, the self-righteous priest, the guy who thinks he can save the world, but he's also kind of a bad guy, at the same time. We talked about it, and I worked my shoot job with Mike, and him and I would have discussions at work on our breaks, on our lunch breaks. Like, yeah, man, this would be a cool gimmick. Let's do something, something a little over the top. If you guys know the gimmick, it's an over the top religious gimmick.
We would be there to cleanse the MWO of what I don't know, but our mission was to come in and show all these misguided people the right way.
The Uprising is one of those factions that doesn't get the amount of credit that it deserves. Simon Page at the helm, you got Blackwell, the real deal, Michael Reaver, then you got Brother Will Vendetta.
We, in our minds, character-wise, were the saviors of the MWO, but we were the villains.
One of the reasons why it was so successful, and again, it doesn't get nearly the amount of attention or spotlight that it deserves, but in a lot of ways, it rejuvenated Michael Reaver's career here. He wound up going on to win another MWO championship, and I can't honestly say that would have been in the cards had he not been such a crucial part of the Uprising. The sky was the absolute limit for those guys, and as a manager goes, I think that may have been some of the most fun that Todd has had as a manager, was being at the helm of that particular faction.
Each person in the faction had they were all some type of outcast. That was the gimmick, right? Mike being an alcoholic, Todd being held back from, because of his disadvantages, but overcoming those disadvantages, but, it being, a journey for him to do that. And, Blackwell coming from, a broken family, being misunderstood, to assemble this team of misfits using the guise of religion, I've often been asked, has this gimmick pissed people off? Has it brought me any guilt? Am I afraid to get struck by lightning? No, because it's all part of the show.
We worked really hard to be the most hated people in the MWO in the shows, and it went so well to the point where we could walk through the curtain and we didn't have to say a word. Just the vision instantly started boos that were deafening.
It was something new, and the image that they portrayed was spot on for what they were aiming for, and I think it was excelled the right way.
I hope it never offended anybody. I don't think it did. And doing a gimmick like that makes it real easy to work a crowd. And I think each and every member of the Uprising was able to do so. It was exciting. I kind of miss it. You know, I do. Maybe one day we can bring it back.
I had started talking to John Campbell and Mike Goodman about coming up to IWE. A lot of the guys in the MWO wrestled there, and they also had people that weren't in the MWO. The feel they had was fun. It was an 80s feel, but with a modern edge to it. And it was really, really focused on the television product, because they had a TV show, much like MWO did.
When we first brought Todd in, I just wanted him to be a correspondent. And then Todd really started begging, and not begging is not the right word, but he really started pushing that he wanted to be more than that. And when he came into IWE, he was Todd the Bod. And so he's like, well, I want to be Simon Page, and I want to do this, and I want to do this, and I want to do this. And I'm like, all right, we'll put you with Mike Goodman, because, you know, again, I still wasn't comfortable with Todd as a performer, but I really liked Mike Goodman on the mic, so maybe Mike Goodman could kind of pick up the slack where Todd was lacking a little bit. And so we did that. We came up with an angle, because Todd, bless him, he just wanted to be a wrestler. And that's all he ever wanted. And with his physical limitations, in our insurance and everything like that, I just knew it wasn't a good idea. But I came up with a way for a workaround. We had this really big guy named Chuck Hammer. Chuck Hammer would come in and just annihilate these guys, and then Todd would get the pinfall. And then Todd would take all the credit. Everybody's happy. Todd gets to, kind of live his wrestling dream without the risk of, us losing our insurance and, Todd getting hurt.
So matches would happen, and the team would beat the guys up, and I'd pin them, and haha, I won, It was fun, but not necessarily what I really wanted to do. And at the time, I was so focused on, again, proving doubters wrong, that I didn't appreciate the opportunity I was given. I didn't really sink in and have fun with what they're having me do. I could have not had a spot on the show at all, and they're giving me this almost a featured spot, and all I could focus on was what I wasn't doing.
And then I remember Todd's car got stolen. And a lot of us felt really bad about that.
I was driving down the road in Flint, surprise, surprise, came to a stop sign, and at that stop sign, someone jumped into my car, proceeded to assault me and throw me out of my car and take off with my car. So this person made off with my car, all my wrestling gear that was in the trunk at the time, the merchandise for my MWO stuff was in the trunk. So my car and everything involving wrestling that I owned was gone.
We all talked, and I'm talking the entire IWE locker room. We talked, and we decided that, hey, instead of us getting paid that night, we were going to take the money that we made and we were going to give it to Todd. So everything we made at the door that night, we gave to Todd.
This whole wrestling thing is always portrayed as a brotherhood, and regardless of any backstage drama or anything else that may be going on, we're supposed to take care of each other. We're supposed to look out for each other in the ring as well as out of it. And it was such a humbling experience that these people who didn't have to do that were very happy to work that show for absolutely free. And John and IWE and the youth center that we held the show at were all very happy to give the money to me for that show. It was such an incredible feeling to know that I'd be able to go and get my stuff back at least. It may not buy me a car right away, but it'll at least help me begin the process of getting all the things back that I had lost. The show went on and we had a tag match. I got to wrestle a full-on match in IWE. I find out 2 days later from an email from John that IWE and the people running the venue have decided I'm too much of a liability to be involved in matches anymore. They didn't want me taking any physicality. They didn't want me wrestling. They wanted me pretty much to be nothing but a manager. Now, I should have been thankful for that opportunity. It still was a spot on the show. It still was a storyline featured kind of spot. It was still being in the business. But at the time, I took it horribly.
Todd sends me an email saying he's unhappy with how he's being portrayed in IWE. He feels he is not being used to his potential. I forget the exact words, but basically he wanted to go in there, he wanted to actually wrestle, he wanted to beat people up, everything that we were not allowed to do with our insurance. And so he quit. After we gave him all of our money to help him buy a new car, 2 weeks later he leaves the promotion.
I really, at the time, felt kind of betrayed a little bit. Now, thinking back, that's definitely not what it was. But combine the things that happened in my personal life with the things that happened in MWO so far, combined with now this, and it really just set me in a really bad place. And it put me in a disillusioned place. I felt very unappreciated, even though that wasn't the case.
And I swear to God, if he would have been in the room with me at that time, I would have gotten arrested, because I would have beat the shit out of him. I hated his guts after that. I wanted nothing to do with him. I found out I had to work with him in MWO, and I was sick to my stomach. And yeah, Todd's time in IWE really left a sour taste in my mouth.
I'm not proud of that. I think that was probably the most unprofessional thing I've ever done. Here was a company and a bunch of people that, out of the goodness of their hearts, gave me a pretty good amount of money to help me out and look out for me. And my way of saying thank you and my paying it forward, I guess, was me saying, well, I can't get what I want, so screw you, I'm out.
I just felt that was extremely, extremely disrespectful. And I was cordial to Todd every time I saw him after that, but I really did not like the guy at all.
That's not how professionals act. That's not why I got in the business in the first place. I've forgotten that the main reason I had gotten here was just because I wanted to be involved in some way. Offending all those people, especially John and Mike Goodman, is probably the lowest point in my career. I regret it a lot. I'm thankful that John and I, quite some time later, were able to patch things up, but it will always be a dark spot, a blemish on my career. So it was decided that Russell-Rama in 2019 was going to be my final show for a while. I was going to be fired on air and go and have some me time.
And Todd indicated that he wanted to leave the MWO to pursue his other endeavors. Like I knew it was coming. I just knew it was coming. And there was a big part of me that was extremely sad because Todd has been a constant presence at live events for like 5 years, and he's 5+ years, I guess, at this point. So it would be weird without him around in some capacity.
At that time, I'd gotten back into music. I'd put out a couple records that had done fairly well. Things were starting to go well on that side of the world, that I thought if I stepped away from wrestling and focused on that, I can have time to replenish my love of the business and come back brand new. About a week before the show was to happen, I was in the studio working on a record with a new band I'd put together called The Undesirables. And my phone started going off like crazy, and it was text messages and calls. And when I'm in the studio, I tend to ignore my phone. I'm working, time is money, blah, 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 I'll call you back. So I sent a text message to the person that had called me. It was my friend Michelle. And I said, I'm busy in the studio right now. I'll give you a call back when we're done. She said, no, you need to stop what you're doing. You need to call me. I ran upstairs, took my phone and called her, and found out that Ash, the night before, had gone out with Michelle and her wife, and his fiance at the time came home and shot himself. They always say you never know what someone is totally going through, and I know he had a lot of demons and things he was wrestling with, and the weight of it all, I guess, just finally became too much. The person I talked to almost every day, made great music with, had many wonderful adventures with, learned so much from, and really understood me, wasn't going to be around anymore. To this day, I'll never totally understand why he did what he did, and I still miss him every single day. So Russell-Rama came on, and I went to the venue ready to be done. I just buried one of my best friends, and life wasn't necessarily where I liked it to be, and I just was ready for a change. I was greeted with a lot of warm reception from many people in the locker room, having known what happened. Even John came up to me and gave me a hug and gave me condolences, and that really touched me. Somebody that I had wronged the way I did still cared. And that led to a deep, long conversation in mending fences with John.
I think Todd needed to find himself. Not so much in wrestling, but I think Todd really needed to find who he was as a person, because I think Todd was lost. As many of us become. I know that I personally have been there many times, and I know that sometimes we need to step away from things and look inside of ourselves to find ourselves, really.
So leaving wrestling with that even was nice and kind of made me feel like I was doing the right thing. The show happened and the spot went great. Jason and I had fun like we always do. Whenever Jason and I work together, it's magical in many ways, and the chemistry is just great.
I was sad. Yeah, I was bummed out, but I was proud of him too, because I know that wasn't an easy decision to make, and I made sure to tell him, that the door would always be open if he decided he wanted to get back involved in the wrestling business.
I packed my bag and left MWO pretty much not even sure if I was ever coming back. So I spent the next few months working on music and making Ashley's final album from project tracks he had left behind. Then coronavirus came, lockdown hit, and the whole world went crazy. Thankfully, I had met and fallen in love with Samantha. We moved in together shortly before that, and she became my rock in many, many ways. About halfway into quarantine and lockdown, I'd gotten this message on my phone from Michael Reaver, and all it said was, "Are you okay?" And I thought he was just checking in on me because it'd been a while, and I said, "Yeah, I'm great. Why do you ask?" And he sent back a message saying, "You need to call me." I call him, and he informs me Jeff Klaus had died. Another of my best friends is gone.
The magnitude of the loss with the passing of my brother is something that's going to be felt in this organization for quite some time. Now, part of the reason why I know in my heart of hearts that I have not come fully to terms with all of it is because I know how much of an impact that had on other members of our roster, especially Todd. Todd and Jeff had a unique friendship. There was a lot of mutual respect and admiration between the two. I have no doubt that of all the people on our roster, the news of Jeff's passing rocked Todd.
My girlfriend did all she could to comfort me during it, and we reached out to each other as far as the friend network in the MWO, but it was a really rough time.
It took a toll on Todd and as well as myself and Bill, we as a posse, and Jim, ex-con. Jeff's passing was something kind of like for Todd, it was a shock. It was a shock for all of us, but felt bad for Todd because he lost his best friend, Ashley Peacock, and I knew how that meant to him, and I could relate because I lost a best friend over 20 years ago. So I was able to talk to Todd and let out the emotions, without judgment. And not saying that a lot of people judge, but people judge. People tend to judge, and Todd is that one person he's like one in a million that will listen to your problems and understand what you're going through and can relate. The relationship that Todd and I have, I take that very, very, very serious.
It broke the hearts of a lot of people, and Todd Gilbert's one of them. I know without a shadow of a doubt. Yeah, he took that really, really hard. No doubt in my mind. At the end of the day, we have to move on. We have to kind of pick up the pieces and do what we can to keep moving forward.